Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming along today. We've got a very interesting panel ahead on the impact of AI on the global jewellery, gemstone and diamond industry. We're going to talk about the entire supply chain and how these revolutionary changes are going to impact every segment of the industry. There are a lot of changes to come. The panelists have already said privately to me, and we're going to explore those in the coming discussion. To kick things off, I think I'd like each panelist, starting from John Key at the end, to very briefly introduce themselves and talk about what is their own individual focus on AI, but very brief because we have a lot of ground to cover today. John.
Thanks, David. Can everyone hear me? Yes. So I'm John Key. I run a advisory and consulting network called Key & Co. We work across sectors. Our experience in jewellery includes the mining sector all the way through to retail and the brands. But we also work in construction, rail, consumer goods, retail, so a whole range of other sectors. And we use AI ourselves. We've recently commissioned some research that within our network around the use of AI, which I'll probably introduce into the discussion.
Thank you. Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Koenigsberg, and I'm the founder and president of Initiatives in Art and Culture. And what brings me here is a very deep commitment to visual culture, of which jewelry is a fundamental expression and a cross-disciplinary concern with that visual culture. So stemming from where and what is sourced, if you will, all the way through to the finished object and its receipt by the intended recipient.
Thank you. Jacques.
Hi, does this work? Yes. Okay, my name is Jacques Voorhees. I'm the CEO, founder of IceCap.ai, but I'm mostly known in the industry. Yes, impressed by the AI? Yeah. Thank you. I'm mostly known in the industry as the founder of Polygon, which was the first online trading platform for the diamond industry, which, thank you, we started in '84 to date me. But I've been involved in sort of high-tech, let's call it, solutions, marketing, trading solutions for the diamond and jewelry industry since that time. And a few years ago, I just fell down the AI rabbit hole, and I don't plan to come back.
Thank you very much. Mahyar.
And he refuses to share his microphone. Mahyar Barhanji, Chief Commercial Officer of De Beers Group, and a tech geek, to be honest. So anything that has anything to do with technology, I'd love to just dig a little deeper to understand how we could utilize it better, how can it create efficiencies, how could it create, as we call in De Beers, many things, as we say, how could it create brilliance? So nice to be here.
Daniel.
My name is Daniel. I'm from the Gubelin Gem Lab. We used the years of the pandemic to prepare our 100th anniversary of the Gubelin Gem Lab. We are very much focused on colored gemstone, determining origin, treatment of colored gemstones. That's expert work. We are running 4 different labs, Hong Kong, Bangkok, Switzerland, and New York. And it's a big hassle to have these labs doing the interpretation of the data in a consistent way. So we are sitting on a wealth of data. So we have trained an algorithm called Gemtelligence to take over the part that so far the gemologists were doing. So now we have a very efficient system. The data crunching is done by a software. The analytics are done by a lab technician, and we are much more independent from our expensive, high-maintenance experts.
Very good. David.
Hi, everyone. My name's David Block. I'm the CEO of Serene Technologies. We're a technology company, been around 35 years in the industry, mainly diamonds. And our technologies span the pipeline all the way from mines through manufacturers, all the way down to the retail. We deal in a very wide range of different technologies, traceability, diamond grading, diamond manufacturing. We've got a huge amount of data that goes through us. Over 100 million diamonds a year go through our technology, so there's a huge amount of data, and that's where AI comes into play, utilization of that data to create technologies that are based on that data usage.
Yes, we'll jump on to Marie-Christine and then on to Stéphane.
I'm the CEO and founder of design and jewelry design and production group, 800 people in France. I think that our perspective is to find a balance between craftsmanship and industry, and it's always, and this is why AI is the, I would say, a project for us, because we are always looking for enabling our people to do more and in a better way.
Thank you. And now Stefan Fischler, who is the architect of the CIBJO Technology Committee report, chair of the Technology Committee.
Yes, thank you. Maybe a little story about how it came about, this technology committee. It was during COVID, like Danielle said, we had more time to think about, and I made a call to Gaetano. I said, Gaetano, I think CIBJO would probably need to focus also on new technology and especially AI. Typically Gaetano said, sì, interessante, sì, ebbene, lo farai. So it was formalized a bit later, and since a few years we publish technology report. The latest one, and I invite you all, has been published on the CIBJO website. Thanks also to the support of my committee. Some of the members are here, and I thank them very, very much for their input. So yes, I think CIBJO will from now on and continues to focus on these new technologies and their impact on the jewelry supply chain.
Thank you, Stefan. So the purpose of this panel essentially is to try and give guidance and insights into what is coming in terms of AI impact on the jewelry, gemstone, and diamond industry. As you can see, we've covered much of the supply chain here, most of the supply chain, not all of it, even despite this big panel. But we're going to travel down the supply chain, starting at the front end at retail, and look at how AI is expected to impact each of these aspects of the supply chain. So I'd like to bring in Jacques first. Jacques, could you just tell us a little bit about your project and your sort of ideas to how retail will be transformed in jewelry by AI?
Very good. I was just at the JCK show in June, and I was very interested when I went to the technology section of that show to what extent anyone was talking about AI, and I found everyone was talking about AI. Great. What were they talking about? And this was mostly retail jewelers doing things with AI. So what were they doing? Well, they weren't doing very much, but they were very excited about what they were doing. And mainly what I saw was they were using AI, believe it or not, to help come up with descriptions of their merchandise to go onto online catalogs and other promotional material like that. Because most jewelers are very good with what they do, but they're not very good writers. So they were relying on things like ChatGPT to come up with names and descriptions and that kind of information. There are a lot of things coming down the pipe with respect to the retail jewelry industry. There's a company in America called JewelersAdvantage.com. I'm not connected with them at all, but I know about them. And think of them as almost a parallel GIA. They've come up with an entire syllabus of educational materials for the retail jeweler based on AI. It's kind of like how to reinvent yourself for an AI world, which I think is very, very interesting. My own project, we're focused primarily on the communication that AI can bring to websites, and we're specifically focused vertically on the jewelry industry. I was very interested in the earlier panels, like the one that we just had, where the blue list is talking about all these terms. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, great, everybody can perhaps agree in this room on what these terms should be. How in the world do you get this out to, forget even the wholesale, but the retail industry and eventually the consumer? How are you possibly going to climb that mountain? And the answer is very easy. You climb it with AI. Because what we're doing is we're putting chatbots focused for the jewelry industry onto the websites of retail jewelers that are specifically trained in jewelry industry terminology and brands, the control of brands on the websites of retailers. So if you have a brand, that's what we're doing. And that's going to make all of these kinds of things, like I can't keep track of the terms, but they were the terms that we were just hearing in the last presentation. Those, you'll never teach the American retailer to use, the salesperson on the floor to use those, but you can teach the AI. Easily you can teach them, and they can be accurate.
So Jacques, you're talking about retail assistant chatbots. How will this impact retail jobs?
Well, I'm going to speak to how it will impact retail sales, if I can say so. And that's just, it's an important point because I lived through the internet revolution. And the internet revolution, it came along and everyone was quite rightly worried about what it would do to their business. And what it did was kill everyone's profit margins. I mean, that's just the truth. It did. You could say there are advantages, but it also killed profit margins. What's exciting about AI is it promises to do the opposite. It promises to increase profit margins by lowering costs. And that means things like AI bots on websites that can be powerful salespeople on websites. Right now, websites don't have salespeople. Stores have salespeople. We couldn't have salespeople on websites until now. Now we can have them. So that kind of thing is going to be more sales happening online, more training available to the people that are in store, more cutting of costs across the board. Now, whether that results in reduced employment, more likely, in my opinion, resulting in changed employment. People will be doing different things, just as always happens.
Such as what?
I was afraid you'd ask that. Everyone needs to be starting now and using AI. And I was pleased to hear almost everybody is at this conference. But one thing I was going to say, and it may not be necessary, if you're not sure what to be doing with AI and how to incorporate it into your business, good news. You don't have to figure out how to incorporate it into your business. Go to AI, ChatGPT, or one of the others, and ask them, here's my business. How should I be incorporating AI into the business? And it will write a 20-page paper on how you should be incorporating it into your business. Whether it will be correct or not is another question. But
so what's the outlook for digital retail sales versus brick and mortar retail sales in that context?
Well, I read a statistic recently that at least in the U.S., I think we're up to. I had a hard time believing this. 30% was going online now, and I heard that by the end of the decade it could be 40%. Does anyone want to challenge me on that? That's what I read.
I don't want to challenge you, but I do want to say I think all of this is kind of a metamorphosis or an evolution, right? Nothing's going to happen in one day or 1 year. But where I agree is, though there may not have been a smart technological way to be able to sell online today, what this will enable a retailer to do is to actually educate the customer much better. Because if you think about it, still today, and this is why James Allen, Blue Nile, Brilliant Earth have all opened up experience centers. A consumer who's going to buy a $10,000 piece of jewelry still wants to feel, touch, and understand prior to that purchase. Yes, 30% of goods are being sold online, but those goods are so inexpensive that no one cares that they're being sold online, right? But when you think about those major products that need to be sold, there's an education part that today at times is misinformed.
Right.
And this is where it can help.
So taking that point of Mahia, Jacques, back to you, not to dumb it down too much, but to try and foresee where we're all headed, does it look like retail, upscale retail continues to be brick and mortar, but more mainstream retail is going to shift increasingly digital with, assisted by AI retail assistant bots?
I don't know, but I do know that what will happen is there will be more educated consumers. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Let's hope it's a good thing. In fact, it's up to us to make sure it's a good thing. But gone are going to be the days where salespeople are untrained and are spewing misinformation and conflict-free and all these terms that were debated at the last thing. Those days are, I don't want to say they're over, but they're on their way out as this kind of improved communication starts to happen, and that's a good thing. However, that's going to manifest.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to manufacturing and design and bring in Marie-Christine. So, Marie-Christine, just tell us a little bit about your own manufacturing concern, but also how you already may be using AI in your processes and your vision for how AI will impact them in the future.
Well, first of all, I would like to say that jewelry is not a regular consumption good. For me, it's conveying a lot of emotion. So, and I don't think that right now any AI is able to create any kind of emotion. So we need to state that right now. Maybe we'd evolved. Considering today our operations, we think that AI can be a tremendous tool to expand the abilities of our teams, meaning about, I would say, automation and of repetitive and tedious tasks, but also about strengthening the reliability of analysis and decision making. Of course, the AI is not going to take the decision, but it will enable us to take a better decision, or the right decision, we hope. And also, it could be a tool to expand the reach of collective knowledge. And I think that this is a really important point for us. 70% of the value added of the group is manual craftsmanship. And the key challenge for us is to recruit, to train the best artisans. And for that, we need to share knowledge, which need to share savoir-faire. And AI can be the right tool to do that more efficiently than we can do it today.
So Jacques was referring to projections for increased profitability in retail linked to integration of AI. With regard to manufacturing, do you foresee reduction in costs of production and increased productivity in the jewelry industry or not?
That's a tricky question. Our aim is to be more cooperative, more adaptive, and more committed into circularity. Performance, of course, is required. I mean, you need to be performant, but this is not the aim for us. So I think that AI will enable us to be more reliable to ensure more longevity for us. But not really, we're not focusing on decreasing cost or getting rid of people. This is not the aim with AI. It's more to enabling the team, enabling the possibilities for them, rather than getting rid of people.
Okay, with regard to design, we all know that if you put in an order to ChatGPT for a certain type of design of jewellery, that you will instantaneously receive some kind of coherent response. I mean, what are your thoughts on how AI will possibly enhance design capability in jewellery?
Again, I think it's about the information that we can use to brief a designer or to prepare mood boards. But I don't think that the images that are generated today with the AI are really creative,
so
to be honest.
Will that change via machine learning going forward? Do you think AI's capability to implement design may improve or not? And what is the space occupied by emotion here? Can it be replicated? Or could it be replicated in future?
I mean, we never know. We never know what AI will be able to do. But right now, I don't think it's the right tool for that. I mean, to give more knowledge to the designer about collection, about the source of inspiration. Yes, of course. This brings a lot of knowledge, for sure. But create image, I don't think it will be relevant.
Okay, so we're going to move on to Mahia next with regard to data impact from AI, but I'd like to invite at any point Stéphane, Lisa and John to jump in because you have more of an overview as we progress in this discussion on the future impact of AI. So Mahia, looking at data driven by AI, how in your experience is it already changing identification of polished diamonds, and how will that evolve in the future?
I also invite David because I have to compliment his and his team's capability at Seren in being able to really transform this. And in fact, a lot of the ideas that we use are I didn't steal them from you. But we took a lot of depth of knowledge that Seren has put into this for years now of getting AI to work effectively. Let me just stop for 1 second and just, in my very simple way, explain how AI works in my mind and works for us. It's almost like a child that learns really fast, a very brilliant child, right? You feed it a lot of information, And based on that information, it starts recognizing things and understanding things and doing things based on the information that it captures, right?
So far.
Yeah, so far. So when we talk about jewelry design, for example, if you feed it a lot of information and architectural knowledge and you know, the anatomy of a jewelry piece and how it should be structured and everything else, and then you ask it after a lot of data has been provided, is there a new anatomy for prongs that we could create that's very different than what it is today? 100%. It can actually come up with recommendation or recommendations, for example. When we look at data and information that we're gathering around polish, symmetry, angles, facetings, and data around
just jump on that. I mean, about the jewelry manufacturing, I would just say, at what cost? Because you need to train the AI. So this is the investment cost, and how do you do that when you're, I mean, you can do that at the level, for the diamond supply, I guess, because you have you are the leader in the diamond supply. But in manufacturing, you don't have any people bigger enough to invest for doing that.
You're 100% right. And technology, the one thing that I've experienced throughout my career is at a certain point, cost goes down farther and farther and farther, and therefore it becomes cheaper and cheaper to do. So it might not be something that will happen today, and I'm not saying it will. But what I'm saying is, it is an absolute possibility, and we should actually prepare ourselves for these things coming about. Rather than saying we shouldn't, it shouldn't happen, we should really focus on when it happens, because it is a when, not an if. How do we actually empower our designers to really be the creative aspect of such products, rather than, you know, here's the recommendations of various different anatomical structures of what a ring should look like, etc. So that's just my thought process around that. I don't know if you want to.
Can you elaborate a little bit about, Mahyar, how AI-driven data can help focus your sales and marketing of at De Beers?
So everyone's heard of Salesforce and all these other wonderful technologies that you use to be able to do things. What we found is when you're actually looking at nuances, this is where AI becomes really interesting to utilize. And nuances are things that a human being cannot pick up at times, right? You have analysts, you have data people who are constantly looking at data, but there is a way that they look at data and a way that they filter information and data, and that becomes kind of the way that they normally do things. And because of that, at times, they miss things, right? We miss things. I miss things because, you know, everyone has their blindfolds of this is what the world should be. And when you look at AI and the transformation of information and data, slight nuances around data can actually help on the sales side be able to actually say, this particular customer actually really likes this more than what you're selling him. Because every time this comes up at a certain price or at a certain, you know, whatever margins, it doesn't matter. They actually take those goods more than other things. So it gives you those little tidbits that you wouldn't be able to find just by utilizing your analysts and the team around you to kind of keep you honest. And ensure that what you're doing in the sales process and what you're actually delivering on in the sales process helps you be more successful as an organization in providing better service to your customers.
Can I just build on that? Sorry, I'll be brief. We started off trying to answer your question about consumers by some very sweeping generalizations, and we were trying very hard to think about what the consumer would do. Actually, with AI, you have a totally different world, because it can start to think about 7 billion potential consumers, and it can literally analyze every single one. So I think personalization is a point that we may have missed. And then I wanted just to link it to manufacturing, because I think it's right that this industry itself cannot possibly learn everything in the manufacturing end of the supply chain itself, but every other sector is focusing AI on really complex problems in miniature manufacturing, global supply chains. So if you think about aerospace and defense, you think about healthcare, some of the things that are being manufactured are not so dissimilar to jewelry. It's not the same, but I think the training examples, the training material, the training data will undoubtedly exist outside the jewelry sector. And you'll have companies coming into our sector who all of a sudden can do things that we may not have thought of. But if we lean into those and embrace them and then put them together with personalization, you suddenly get something that I thought this was a big panel, but however big our panel was, you can never do what AI can do at that level of detail.
Okay, thank you. Stefan, yeah?
Maybe to recenter a little bit. To recenter a little bit the debate, we are in creative industries, meaning the creativity of those working in industry is their IP, I would say. And I wonder the dialogue of the creator with the AI, training the AI, and hopefully getting better and better answers, is it not a little bit giving away your own personality, identity, and sharing your own intellectual IP with AI and share it with the wider users? I think it's going to be an interesting set of dynamics, also in terms of culture. I mean, we had our African colleagues here saying very openly that there is no African AI yet because there's no data fed. So we're going to get this kind of Western-centric AI data sets, some Asian data sets. How will that work out in the future? I mean, it's very interesting in terms of, will we end in a monoculture within AI, or will we be able to keep our own identity and culture?
All right. Maybe David Block would have some views on that. But first, David, I would like you to talk about, very briefly, the AI-driven technologies that Celine offers, and then what the outlook will be for diamond grading jobs.
So maybe before I get to that, I'll try and connect up a lot of what was said over here. And AI is a big buzzword, and everyone likes to talk about it. But in the end, if there's no value to it, it doesn't really interest anyone. And there were three things that were mentioned so far on the panel in terms of value of AI. One was cost, productivity, and design, yes, no, or creativity. I'm actually in your camp, which creativity, I'm not sure it's there yet. I'm not saying it won't be there, but I don't think yet. They talk about generative AI a lot. I don't think generative AI yet is creative, but most definitely in terms of cost and productivity, it exists. But I want to flip maybe the coin in terms of cost. Cost always goes back to loss of jobs, which you asked me about as well, in the grading and so on. But you need to look at it, I think, from another perspective. A small company, an independent retailer or an independent retailer with a number of stores has certain abilities that he can do with his existing manpower. AI opens up a whole new world of what he can do with that existing manpower. Talks about sales, okay? Can that independent retailer analyze his sales? Can he analyze his visits to his website, to other people's website? AI can provide huge amount of insights and decision-making or decision-aiding processes by providing him insights to what's happening on his website. Who's searching for what? What does he need to order going forward because of the searches happening? What trends are happening in the market? So I think AI provides, actually levels the playing field a lot between the smaller players and the bigger players because of the fact that it enables access to huge amounts of information. It enables you to take better decisions, not necessarily with less people, but with the same people that you have. So I think in terms of cost, that's the other side of it, that it opens up a lot of opportunities of doing a lot more with your existing people. Going to your question about what we're doing, again, we have AI implemented into most of our different technologies along the diamond pipeline, some more than others. You mentioned one of them, diamond grading. We basically have technology that enables to scan diamonds, upload the data to the cloud, and through machine learning AI, grade the diamond. you say, okay, but that's going to replace
jobs.
graders,
So
right?
what does that mean for diamond grading jobs? Will they go?
So someone who mentioned it, it will change jobs. And AI does, what did AI do very well? It does very well anything that is very deterministic and repetitive. Okay, so if you're doing the same job again and again and again, and that's what a diamond grader does every day when he comes to the office, he does the same action, tens or hundreds, depending on what his task is a day. Is that a good job, a bad job? I don't know. I don't want to go into that. It's a job that definitely AI can replace. How, what will these people do? I've been in the diamond industry for 25 years. Serene's been around with technology for 35. And we've definitely seen along that period that technology has come and changed jobs. In many cases, it's increased the number of jobs. So if you take diamond manufacturing, there are more people using technology in the diamond manufacturing industry today than they were doing manual processes prior to technology. So definitely it's changing jobs. What will these jobs do? I agree. I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, does anybody in the panel have a view as to what these new jobs
My
potentially
question
can
is,
be?
what are the new skills that would be required compared to the current skills?
So I don't have a good answer, but I lived in India for 4 years, and I've been traveling to India for 20 plus years, okay? And back then, in the early days, there wasn't a big IT industry in India. A lot of the work was very manual work. Surat, where most of the world's diamonds are manufactured, they were mainly farmers. Today, it's a high-tech city doing a lot of different jobs which have a high skill set. So it's changed dramatically what is happening in a place like Surat or in India in general. India has a huge IT industry. So technology has definitely changed a lot of the jobs that no longer exist because of technology, but it's created a huge amount of alternative jobs which, in my opinion, have a much higher skill set and bring the people that used to do the low-level skill set of jobs to a much higher level. So I don't have a good answer of what they will do, what these specific people will do tomorrow. But if you look on average in the general picture, the technology enables you to bring people up to a high level, both in terms of economic and social environment. And therefore, I think we need to look very carefully when we talk about job replacement or job technology taking away jobs, what it does in a much wider picture rather than the specific job that is replacing.
Okay, let's move along to...
Can I just ask a question?
Go ahead.
David, could you suggest or what the jobs are that have been... You've talked about it has allowed for the creation of new jobs. What are some of those jobs?
I can give you examples from my world that I've seen through my career. Once upon a time, there were people that were called cleavers that used to take, I don't know if in the audience still remembers this position, a diamond cleaver. Used to have a lot of understanding about diamonds, and people said to us, our technology, which we introduced that scan a rough diamond and then decide or help decide what to do with it, is going to replace these jobs. Back then in the day, this was 25 years ago, there were probably in the world about 3,000 of these people, plus minus again, maybe more, maybe less. Today, you probably have over 50, maybe closer to 100,000 people working in diamond planning, which is basically utilizing technology which replaced these jobs. We opened up schools to train these people to enable to provide much wider group of people the skills to be able to plan diamonds, which enabled a much wider proliferation of diamonds into the industry. So these 3,000 jobs that were lost, that skill set disappeared over time. I don't think there's anyone who remembers how to do that anymore, but now there are 50,000 plus people that are doing the job that replaced it.
Okay, let's move on to color gemstones and gem testing. I'd like to bring in Daniel Niefeler. Daniel, could you tell us a little bit about how AI-driven technologies are changing at Gubelin and your vision for the future of gemstone testing due to AI?
Yeah, thank you. I can maybe just give another example of how jobs are changing and in fact getting an upgrade and not kind of just disappear. Color gemstone gemologists in a lab like ours, they usually come with a background of master in earth sciences. They have mineralogical crystallography, solid state chemistry, solid state physicists. So they have quite a, or PhDs, masters in in sciences. Eventually, they leave the academic career, they come to our lab, and they see themselves describing another 20 Colombian emeralds with a three-phase fluid inclusion with a jagged outline, and another Burmese ruby with silk. So they are actually doing a work which is not so rewarding. I mean, they love to do that work, but also in terms of analytics, you know, they always look for the same peaks in certain spectroscopic data. They always look for the same kind of pattern in trace element chemistry and so on. But it's a very repetitive job, so it is perfect to be replaced by some kind of a software. And what these people can do now, I mean, we have a massive increase in efficiency. Before, they were describing like they were spending maybe half an hour for important stones, and in our lab we get many important stones, maybe 1 hour describing what they see and discussing the result that come from the lab technician. And now the software spits out a result and say this stone is Mozambique heated with a 98.3% confidence. And if it's above the confidence threshold we have defined, they can just do a 30-second, what we call a plausibility test, and then bam, it's done. And the time that we gain, the time that they gain, they can spend in much more rewarding things. They can do field work. I mean, many of them are earth scientists. They love going out to the field. We can visit now. We have a potential to visit much more mines, doing more field trips every year. They can maintain the systems, or they can work on research zones. They can work on research projects. They can mentor and coach younger colleagues. So I think that it's indeed much closer to what they are actually trained to than what they were doing in the past years in our lab.
So how do you foresee that labs may change due to AI-driven technology? I mean, will eventually machines replace labs, that people will hire the machine? How will things change?
Well, I mean, it already happened in our case. We have lab technicians that are operating the machines and creating the data, which then gets fed into a software, and the software spits out the result. And our gemologists are only making a plausibility check of the result. What it will change now for other labs, and that's quite an exciting news actually, we are just preparing now our software that we can open that solution as a service. So we know that we are in a privileged position in the Google Gem Lab. We are sitting on 100 years of testing the world's most important gemstones, right? That's an extreme privilege. We have these data, not 100 years analytical data, but say 20, 30 years quite consistent analytical data, chemical data, spectroscopic data. And we have now the software, so the condensed knowledge or experience that we have is now available in that software, and that's what now we plan to open to other labs. We get approached quite often from people, like recently there was a lab in the not in Emirates, in Saudi Arabia, Saudi lab. We have one lab in India, we have one in mainland China. They were approaching us and said, hey, we want to build up a lab. What instruments do we need? Can you share your reference collection with us because we want to learn? And now we can say, much easier. We come to you, we help you purchasing the instruments, we tweak the instruments that are creating meaningful data. We create the API, you can upload the data on our software, and then you either pay per inference that you do, or you have an annual subscription, and then you do not have to care about the making sense of the data as such. So that's something which, a bit the euphemistic term, democratizing knowledge. For us, it's a business, and for them, it's a good solution to overcome a massive hurdle to reach that stage.
Maybe
yes, David.
Maybe I'll answer a little bit more deterministically. First of all, it's happening as we speak. Technology is being used in grading labs around the world. We use it very significantly in our own lab, but it's not only us. Gublin, GA, Forevermark labs, technology is being used more and more as we speak. And I think it's inevitable that eventually it will replace most of the repetitive, tedious work that is being done in a lab. There's no good reason why not. Having said that, it's a process. It's not happening, it doesn't happen in a day. I'll just give you an example of the process that we went through over the past few years. In the beginning, you would test the technology, then you'd put it in as a first grader and continue grading manually. As you gain more and more data, more and more experience, see the results long term, you can then start solely grading based on technology. And it's not, there's many different areas, okay? It's not one size fits all. Even with color, you've got different areas, tinges, clarity. The higher clarities are more difficult. So it's a process that you'll see over the next, I don't know how many years. But eventually, I think most of diamond grading will be done through technology. I think it's inevitable. When I ask someone, why won't that happen? I haven't yet heard a good answer.
Okay. Could I ask Stefan, could you sort of give us a summary of the key findings of the Technology Committee report by CIBJO?
Well, the idea was for me to focus on especially the implementation of this new technology. First of all, to find out how much the usage of technology was really effective. And I called my colleagues on the committee, I talked to other people. It was an interesting reply. Some people were shy to admit that they were using AI. When prompted more, they started to tell me how many tasks they were already using AI. One of the things that people, and I'm diverging here, AI is relying on physical infrastructure and needs enormous power of energy to function properly, and even more in the future. So there is a kind of fragile element to it. So don't think it will work seemingly forever. The downside is also that AI will allow, if we talk about nefarious actors and hacking and so on, the opportunity and possibility of nefarious actors to really penetrate organization is now huge and will only increase. So that's something I want to give. The second thing is important also is that the logarithm are not completely neutral in a sense that the way, and there's been a lot of discussion also on the gender bias of some logarithm also. So in the jewelry industry, it's interesting to understand that there are some inherent biases when you prompt AI, which you don't realize at first, but you need to take into account. So one of the thing I really wanted to understand is really the implementation in AI within organizations. It's a bit different compared to large, small organizations, but I fully agree with some panelists who said it's a huge opportunity for small organizations and SMEs to level up their capacity. And I would certainly encourage everybody in the room to really think about that and really, take it very seriously because the opportunities are there. It requires probably a different skill sets. It requires also to have some strong IT backup in your organization and also to secure your IT and your data even more than before. There's also an element of AI, and John maybe can talk to this, AI still hallucinates from time to time, so I think it's we need to understand that as well. But overall, our report, and I call it our report because I had so much help and support from my teammates here, is really to raise awareness and to promote everyone to make a step forward and really try it out, more than try it out. I know many here, and Marie-Christine is probably a good example, are much further than that. But we wanted really to raise the awareness to the jewelry industry in terms of the opportunities, some pitfalls, it's also in the report, the opportunity within the report. I'm gonna keep the mic and I'm gonna ask Marie-Christine, how is it for you? How was your experience with your employees when you started to employ AI more and more? How was the reaction? How did you manage that?
Well, first of all, I would like to add to what you just said, is that there's a lot of prerequisite to use AI about system architecture, database, cybersecurity, etc. So let's be pragmatic. I don't want to talk about what AI will be able to do in 5 years or 10 years. I don't know, and we will adapt. But right now, let's be pragmatic. We started with a one-day discovery for all the managers of the group, 50 people. and it was very successful. They were eager to use the technology. So we had to refrain them and said, okay, we will organize it properly. Don't jump on it like that. We need to first address all the problem of cyber data ownership and see with what kind of project we will start. And then we went through an assessment with some consultant to find what would be the right project to start. AI, because you want to be successful for the teams. So you need to address with something that is impactful enough, and at the same time that you're sure you will be able to achieve. So we've been working on that, and now we are in the roadmap of implementation. It should be finished by next summer. So it's still a long way, and but all the teams are very enthusiastic on the topic, and they really want the tool.
The new talents that you will hire in the future, will AI impact the profile of the new talents you will need to hire? Not all of them, of course, certainly some.
Just briefly, Marie-Christine,
Yes.
I want to bring in Lisa.
Yes, very shortly. I think that the new generation is a web or online native, so AI is quite normal for them. So I'm not sure the question is relevant. They will be all into AI, whatever. So
Lisa, you have some holistic concerns about the rollout of AI. Can you tell us what they are?
I do, but even before I get to that, I'd just like to raise a vocabulary question. In true CIBJO fashion, I too went to the dictionaries. And there are numerous definitions for tool and technology. But one of the things that this report so wisely does, because I'd like to go back to the document, is it says, AI is best used to support and assist humans. The report further says a multiplier, not a replacement. The problem is we don't know. And so I hate to be the person who appears to be one, antediluvian, or two, retrograde. But I would say that there are probably a fair number of people in this room who don't actually know what AI is. They don't. They hear what it may be able to do. They hear what it is doing, because we have very distinguished people on this panel who can speak with great expertise. But it doesn't mean that people understand what AI is. And one of the things that we as humans do is we start to write history almost immediately, because that creates a distance between ourselves and the thing that induces anxiety. And the reality is there's plenty of anxiety about what this technology could do. We hope for what it will do. And there are many wonderful quotes that I could pull out from this report, which, full disclosure, I was not a co-author of, but nonetheless, I think it has a lot of very wise things to say. And the fact is that there are any number of documents being drafted now with thousands of signatories, and what they are cautioning is vigilance, care. Use it as a tool, if you will, I'm going to use Emersonian language, but in the hand of man. Now, that may affirm my own limitations, particularly my own gender bias. So if I were programming the machine, we'd already be in trouble. But the reality is that we don't know. And something that no one has mentioned, which could happen, is what is luxury in an age of responsible practice? Well, it may be materials, fully developing the potential of materials. It may be artisanry. It may be craft. it is possible that this age of AI is exceptional for that definition of luxury in an age of responsible practice. It may be that it allows for the creation of a parameter of choice, but it's a defined parameter, and that opens up possibilities in the mid-range. That could be. But we don't know. And that's all I would like to say, because I think one of the things that happens is it gets a bit like climate speak, where what happens is people start codifying terms, they throw around the terms, everybody in the room talks about the terms, but we've lost the meaning of what they are if, in fact, we had them. So I don't want to be antediluvian here, but that's what I would say, in part.
Thank you very much, Lisa. So I'm going to ask one more question, then we're going to open the floor to questions from the audience. So do start thinking about your questions. Mahia, you had mentioned yesterday, I think it was Nikki Oppenheimer who said that De Beers was a marketing company with a mine. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on the future of social media marketing driven by AI of jewellery. How will it evolve, particularly with reference to Instagram?
Well, Instagram or TikTok, you know, if you look at, sorry, I just want to go back to one of the things that you said. There's a guy named Simon Sinek. You know him? Have you read it? Simon Sinek. Have you heard his name?
Yes.
He's a great author, and I respect him tremendously. And he actually said something very interesting. In the times that people have millions of followers and friends, it's the time that they're loneliest ever. It's such a very interesting way to look at our society today. You have thousands and hundreds and thousands of friends online and social media, and you share all your ecstatic parts of your life with them, yet you feel you're the loneliest ever. And this leads me to something that you mentioned, which is it's these times and times to come, because of artificial intelligence and the world and the unrealistic aspects of this world, that I think human beings will want that humanity in the products that they are going to own, that physical craftsmanship and the real products that people may not have had the opportunity to want to own in the past. So in some ways, it could actually really, as you said, help create that space for craftsmanship and real products for people to want to have.
So we need to be quick now. We're running right out of time.
It could, but it also could be at what price? So who can afford that level of cost? And again, I don't mean to be a naysayer. I just want to put it out there.
Last word to John before one last question.
I'm going to be very quick and just make a couple of observations, just building on what you both said, actually. There was a Harvard study recently, and it was, what they'd done is they'd scraped all of the Reddit conversations over the last 5 years on AI, and they were looking at the most common use of AI. The most common use of AI is therapy and companionship. And it links a little bit to some of the conversations that we had before about AI being used for the simple tasks, which I think is happening. I do agree with that, but I also think it's quite interesting on the projects that I've been working on. You go right to the other end of the telescope, and actually it's really, really good at manning a help desk, to the point of, I've been working with a charity. They do drug and alcohol rehabilitation. AI is really very good at the therapy end. And obviously people feel uncomfortable about that. It needs to be tested. But AI, I think, I think we've all said it, no one really knows where it's going. So I completely agree with you, Lisa. And I don't think anyone would disagree. We need regulation, and we need to proceed with caution. But I think it has hugely exciting possibilities that will mainly drive growth.
Okay, actually. Very good. Thank you for that. One question. Any question from the audience? Please identify yourself.
Yeah,
Thank
Claudio Melisenda, German GemLab. Maybe a comment. Apart from the enthusiasm that we have about AI, we have to make clear, and we also have to point it out to the consumer, the potential danger of AI. Now, a recent study of the European broadcasting community showed that about more than 30% of the answers and reports given by AI is just pure fiction. And it is based on quoting references which simply do not exist. And this is something we have to tell the people who want to use AI. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say that problem is both a problem and an opportunity, because the AI can be trained to give correct answers. The moment you discover it's giving incorrect, it doesn't want to give incorrect answers, it just doesn't know. So when we find it makes mistakes, we teach it. It's like a child, they're not perfect when they first, start to talk. They have to be trained. And if you think of AI as a child or a new salesperson in your store, it's a similar kind of dynamic.
Just to build on that, actually.
Very quick, because we're out of time.
So I mentioned before, we've looked across industries, and it's really interesting. So I think people are beginning to work out when absolutely not to use AI. So when you look in rail and parts of shipping, they're very safety critical industries. 85% accuracy is just not enough. You need 100.0% accuracy. And there are ways of achieving that in manufacturing, in safety critical industries. So there will be different flavors of AI. And it also says that we will always need pretty much a human in the loop.
Just to conclude, we are here at CIBJO. There's been a lot of work being done on education, on nomenclature, and so on. And I think it's incumbent to all of us to feed the AI with the good work of what CIBJO is doing. In essence, but the more we feed it with the nomenclature, the consumer protection efforts that we do, the more we'll come back and support this industry. Thank you.
Absolutely true. Thank you very much.